It starts to remind me a little bit of the revenue ramp we started to see for NVIDIA like several years ago when this really started to kick off. If the opportunity in front of us is not still big, like they're both screwed.
We own both, although currently we're a little underweight NVIDIA to the S&P, and we're quite a bit overweight Broadcom to the S&P.
Joining me now is top chip analyst Bernstein Stacey Raskin and Broadcom shareholder Blue Line Capital's Bill Baruch. Thank you both for being here. Stacey, there are, reports out there that it's OpenAI that's working with Broadcom to develop a custom AI chip. What do you see as the implications of that?
Yeah, by the way, it's been speculated that it's OpenAI. It's plausible. Whoever this is moving very, very quickly. Seems to sort of fit with their persona. No, this is really important. You have to remember, Broadcom had 3 customers that were shipping these AI chips. It was Google and Meta and ByteDance. They had 4 others that were prospects. So one of those prospects, this one, is now converted into a customer. And it is a tremendous amount of revenue. They said $10 billion next year, which is a very fast ramp relative to anything we've seen before. And they're implicitly guiding, effectively their AI revenues next year well over $40 billion. It was like $30 billion as of last quarter. And I don't know that it stops in 26 either. They sounded fairly positive that it would continue into the years beyond. And so, frankly, it starts to remind me a little bit of the revenue ramp we started to see for NVIDIA like several years ago when this really started to kick off. And if you think that those numbers are anywhere plausible, all of a sudden, the earnings power of this company starts to go up very, very strongly. And, the stock has been fairly expensive, but, it starts to realize maybe it's not as expensive if you actually think the earnings prospects are as strong as maybe they are suggesting. And so I'm actually not surprised that it's up as much as it is today. And I don't know that the story at this point is done.
Yeah, and on the flip side, you've got NVIDIA down potentially a bit on this idea of diversification of the supply chain. Stacey, I'm just curious whether you think NVIDIA has some real competition and whether its share is seriously threatened at this point.
Look, so the whole GPU versus ASIC debate goes back and forth, right? And right now, the narrative, at least today, is clearly shifting toward Broadcom. They do go back and forth. I actually don't think that the right question right now is necessarily who's winning or losing. I actually think personally the question is better off to be put, is the opportunity in front of us still large or is it not? Right? I think ASICs will take share. They're coming from a smaller base. I don't think they dominate. And I think if the opportunity in front of us is still big, if we're still early in this, as I think we are, I think they can both thrive. Because think about it this way, if the opportunity in front of us is not still big, they're both screwed.
Right.
So that's the right question right now. I think not as much who is winning or losing. But in the heat of the moment, clearly that narrative today is going to shift more toward Broadcom. We're in that phase of this cycle.
Well, let's ask Bill that question about the rising tide lifting all boats and potentially the tide washing out there. Bill, you're a shareholder of both NVIDIA and Broadcom. What do you do with today's developments?
I don't think that they're going to compete against each other and one would harm the other. I think that what you're seeing here is the multiple, the high multiple in Broadcom. You're paying for this flexibility. They helped Google or Alphabet ramp up the TPU. And now, although that relationship has changed, the flexibility here in helping OpenAI potentially ramp up what could be the XPU, an inference chip. And I think that pivot allows, takes some pressure off the lack of GPU chips that are on demand for NVIDIA. Now, we don't look at this as there's a one winner. We own both. Although currently we're a little underweight NVIDIA to the S&P, and we're quite a bit overweight Broadcom to the S&P. I think there's a lot of runway here, and I do agree with Stacey that this does remind me of what we saw in 23, where the revenue growth, the ramp up that's coming next year in 2026 for Broadcom. It reminds me of NVIDIA. We're seeing 60% revenue increase forecast for 26, but let's not forget you have the software infrastructure, and that's still nearly a 50% revenue forecast increase too. So you got the diversified revenue streams, and we love Broadcom. I'm a little patient here. We wouldn't be chasing it. I do want to increase. We trimmed it recently just because we were so overweight. I would be looking for a pullback, somewhere, at least the 315, 312 area, but we could get a move to 300 if the broader market kind of softens a bit.